I love Boudreau's book on Paul very, very much. And one of the things that he says for him about Paul is the idea of the divided God, or the God who becomes finite, comes down to earth, is that it's about the event. And he likes the subtracted nature of Paul's discourse, because all it's about is the event. And I think when you're saying that something can take place between two people, something beyond yourself, it's about the event. And when I read Boudreau's book on Paul, this for me spoke to me about what you're trying to do as an analyst all the time. You're trying to make room for an event. You're trying to be the one who hears the event and marks the event for the person who comes to see you. This is a real event in your life. That was a real event in your life. Here are the consequences of that event in your life. And I think that is to make room for something sacred, for something beyond the self, for something beyond just egoistic pleasure.
Okay, so I'm allowed to finish, because this is the event that I put on. So I'm going to finish with a parable. Just actually inspired, reminded of this parable about what you were saying. It's a Hindu parable. So a Hindu parable is about this guy who is going to a temple in the mountains, and he's on a pilgrimage. And on the way to the temple, he stays with a family, and they look after him. And the next day they say, when you get to the temple, would you pray to God to bless us with children? And so the young novice says, absolutely. And he goes up to the temple, and after he's finished with his prayers, his rituals, he says, God, when I was pilgriming here, a young family asked me to pray for them that they would have children. And God says, I'm sorry, it's not in their destiny to have children. So the pilgrim goes away, and about 6 years later, the pilgrim does the same pilgrimage and goes and visits the young family. Only this time, he sees 3 young children, and he's confused. He says, what happened? He says, well, after you left, this old man came, he stayed with us, he gave us a blessing, and this is the fruit of the blessing. And so the novice goes up to the temple, and he shouts out to God, you told me that that young couple couldn't have children, it wasn't in their destiny. And God says, yes, it wasn't in their destiny. And he says, but they have 3 kids. And God laughs and says, that must be the doing of a saint, for they have the power to change destiny. That's an event, that's an event. Now, by the way, the story's ruined, because I put it on YouTube, and somebody said, I've got a funny feeling that that old guy and that woman did something. So that kind of ruined the story. But anyway, I wish I hadn't told you that. Thanks so much. We're going to have a half-an-hour break, and then the cabaret DJ decided,